these lines I write. I keep it live cause I thrive. I might just blow your mind tonight. I'm so hyped, but it's no hype. From this height, it's direct hits on sight. I'm your type, lend me your ears to show you that there's something in me. I'm not giving up, I'm standing right here, holding these days hostage. And I'll make this my year. We turning fear into love, and the love's in the air. I love doing this cause nothing compares. Nothing can share that same type of feeling when you feeling them flares. They can't catch it, it's havoc. I rip to a tear, switch the scenario. My stereos, I leave them impaired. Variables start to change and they're all in my range. I just gotta grab it, it's all mathematics. Every step is drastic, I make it fantastic. I'm trying to take your breath away. Asthmatic.
This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo.
Yeah, just nod your head with it. So explicit and vivid. Every image is intricate, intimate. I put my all into it. No scrimmage and no rules. I'm a pro tool. Hear my heartbeat beat into the vocals. I'm so loco, lost my mind, oh no. It's ponderoso, dope, so no overdose, cause it's dope, yo. Man, this is house grown, mixed with some milestones. So I let the style flow down like the Dow Jones. Bringing it with some foul tones, letting the crowd know we getting loud, so it's eardrum rudiments. Yeah, we bring it rude again. Move, little hooligan. Music for tuning in, full time to the 10. I'm on my clock like I told you. I'm doing this for dreams we pursuing.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Anti-Media Radio Show, once again with your host Nick Bernabe here on UCY.tv and the antimedia.org/radio. Happy to be back, alive and well, on this Wednesday, January 31st, 2018. Doesn't it seem like a really long month? Or is that just me? It just seems like January's just been going on forever. Happy to be through January for the most part, and on to the short month, and maybe we can get the spring started a little early. Hopefully everyone enjoyed the super moon. They were calling it like a million things. Super blood, blue, dark moon. I forget what they called it, but I didn't see it this morning, but I saw it right now when it was coming up over the eastern horizon, and it looked really nice. Dark orange, and I guess that's why they call it the blood moon. It looked really cool. A lot of ground to cover tonight, and first order of business is the State of the Union address. I unfortunately tortured myself and made myself watch it, and then as if that weren't enough, I went and watched Bernie Sanders' response to it, and that was tortuously boring as well. Of course, Bernie Sanders at least is a well-intentioned kind of politician, whereas Trump is kind of openly like, yeah, screw everyone except for white Christians or whatever. But the two things really stood out to me from the State of the Union. First, and this was actually pretty awesome, how Trump opened up the speech with praising the Cajun Navy and their kind of community relief efforts going on down in Houston. That was really, really nice. And you guys know me, I don't praise Trump, like I don't, but the fact that he kind of opened that up with the Cajun Navy, that surprised me. Like, I did not think that was coming. And, we've had a few guests on. We had, who was that? I think we had Dan Johnson on the show from We Do Better, which is one of the organizations that actually helped coordinate with the Cajun Navy and provide support for them to help them rescue people. And then a member of our team, Aaron Nelson, he's kind of, I want to get him on the radio show sometime soon, but he's kind of shies away from the camera and the spotlight. But, he was instrumental in helping save thousands of people down there, working with the Cajun Navy and coordinating them with the Coast Guard and other people. So that was basically one of two things that stood out to me. The other thing, of course, is just the lengths to which Trump went to demonize North Korea. I mean, it was just on and on and on and on about how North Korea is so bad to its own people, and North Korea is this, and North Korea is that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Iraq all over again, man.
Yeah, dude. And, there's a great article today on The Intercept, which you can also find over at the antimedia.org on the homepage. Let me pull it up because it also had a great title, too, and it was a great, great article. Let's see. Donald Trump's North Korea rhetoric during the State of the Union is an ominous carbon copy of Bush's words about Iraq 15 years ago. Who was this by? John Schwartz, I think. Yeah, John Schwartz at The Intercept, one of their really good writers. But it was, basically Trump took all the stuff out of Bush's playbook that he used as a pretense, or like the precursor to invading Iraq. I'm sure you guys remember that. I remember watching that as a young man. 15 years ago, I was probably like 15 or 16 years old. Yeah, I must have been 16 by then because they do this thing on the same day every year, I guess. I remember watching that, and afterwards, I'm not even playing. I was like, you know what? Like, shit, I'm kind of excited about bombing Iraq. Like, they deserve it. Like at the time, as a 16-year-old kid whose parents were watching CNN, I pretty much was like on board with it. I'm like, yeah, Saddam is an asshole. He's killing babies. He's in bed with Osama bin Laden. He's basically Al Qaeda. They're manufacturing weapons of mass destruction. This is right after 9/11. Everyone is so fucking scared of their own shadows. They're like, oh shit, like, yeah, we got to just do something. I don't care what it is. Just bomb somebody. You know what I'm saying? And look, we're not in that situation right now as with that like post 9/11 thing. But regardless, Trump and before Trump, they've been laying the groundwork for military action against North Korea for a very, very, very long time. In fact, I would say, the moment the Korean War kind of came to its stalemate, because, it hasn't actually officially ended. It's technically still going. It's just like a truce or an armistice or whatever. I would say from the moment the Korean War ended, they just continued on with this anti-North Korean propaganda. Of course, back then it was because they were communists, and now it's because of the rockets and the missiles and that, and, because Kim Jong-un is such a bad guy that, imprisons his own people, as if the United States doesn't have the largest per capita prison population. In fact, the United States prison population dwarfs that of North Korea's. I mean, it's hard to find a moral high ground. I mean, don't get me wrong. Kim Jong-un is a crazy megalomaniac, authoritarian. For all I know, he's doing the most horrible shit. But also, for all I know, I don't really hear that much about North Korean police going around killing 1,000 people a year. I mean, the numbers, I haven't checked the latest number, but there was already like 70 people killed in the U.S. by police just this month, first month of the year. So it's kind of hard to go around and say, oh, well, you guys are so bad when you haven't dealt with the stuff that you're actually doing yourself. The United States has a host of issues. I mean, for one, I'm sure anyone living in a big city can tell you about the homeless issue. I know here in San Diego, I don't know the exact numbers, but it seemed to have ballooned like 500%. I used to do a lot of, back when the Occupy movement was still kind of lingering around, I used to go out and, feed the homeless and hand out clothes and sleeping bags and tents and stuff in San Diego. And back then there was about like a 1 square block tent city for the homeless down in downtown, which, it was just kind of the spot where there were just so many of them that they got left alone. Last time I went down there when Derek Bros was in town with the Conscious Resistance Tour, and we went down to hand out some, home-cooked meals to the homeless, it was mind-blowing how big it's gotten. Like, in San Diego, maybe San Diego's worse than other places, but Derek was telling me that every city they've gone to, it's the same story. Everyone that's there, all the activists say, yeah, the problem's got much worse in the past 3 or 4 years. Like, homelessness is just blown up. But in San Diego, I mean, like I said, it used to be like 1 square block, and then, there'd be some homeless little encampments here and there under the underpasses and stuff. Now it's like almost a square mile where you got like 10, 15,000 homeless people living down in this one area of downtown San Diego. And so, also in San Diego here, there was just that huge, what was that? Jake, do you remember the name of that virus that was going around, killed like 20 homeless down here in San Diego?
Tuberculosis? That was in LA, but anyway, there's a huge population, homeless population up here in Portland too, of course.
Yeah, and so, I mean, so basically my point is, I can't remember the damn name of that virus, but my point is here is that we don't really have the moral high ground to criticize North Korea, and then, you know, it's one thing to look at what is done domestically, right? North Korea domestically, you know, they have total censorship, total control over the people. They do a bunch of horrible shit. I'm sure they have, forced labor camps and that kind of stuff. But what does North Korea do internationally? You know, that's the big question. And this is where North Korea actually has the moral high ground above the United States because, you know, the U.S. has a reputation of going around and overthrowing governments. And we just covered an article a couple days ago in the anti-media about how we've got, you know, 800 to 1,000 military bases in 80 different countries around the world. And our recent track record, Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, Yemen, Somalia, you know, the meddling that we did in Ukraine. I mean, a bunch of different stuff all around. And now, of course, they're focusing in on North Korea. We don't have the moral high ground on international affairs. North Korea is actually, in my opinion, a more respectable, you know, international figure. You know what I'm saying? So it's really hard to say, oh yeah, we can tell North Korea how to act and what they need to do and all that. We can't. We really can't. Jake, can you take the wheel for like 10 seconds real quick? Sorry, someone's trying to come in the office right now. Hold on.
I'll take the wheel, Dad. Drink your beer. No, I watched the. It's funny that you said that you were 16 when 9/11 happened. 'Cause I remember that day so well because it was my first year in college. I was 18, so that timeline makes sense because I think I'm 2 years older than you. And I came back from my first semester in because Santa Cruz had a very late start for their fall term. So I was still in Little Rock, Arkansas with my parents when 9/11 happened. It was September 11th. Hadn't quite left to go back to Santa Cruz for the fall term. I guess that would have been, yeah. And I remember I was watching it when it happened. I went in and my dad just said, "Sons of bitches." You know, I looked at the screen and of course I was looking at the smoke coming up from it. And I'm pretty sure I predicted on that day that we'd be at war within a very short period of time. And the moment they started talking about Iraq having weapons of mass destruction, I didn't believe them for a minute. So I felt like I've spent the next 10 years feeling like an insane person saying, "I told you so. I told you so," because I said that they were going to fucking do that right from the beginning. And no one in the media, incredible numbers of reputable journalists and people who have never been duped before like that, were just like, "Yeah, bomb them. They have weapons of mass destruction." That evidence was so obviously manufactured. And people were just like, "Oh, they wouldn't make up something that bad." Well, guess what? They will. They do. They did, and they will. So we need to open our eyes to the government trying to bamboozle us with giving manufactured consent to wars.
Yeah, and, you know, they've been at it with North Korea for a very, very long time. With Iraq, you know, I mean, we had the Gulf War and stuff, and it kind of cooled off, and then they just really picked it up after 9/11. They're like, Iraq. This North Korea stuff's been going on for a long time. And we got a big article coming out tomorrow with from our Asia correspondent, James Holbrooks. He's going to be he's going to be posting an article tomorrow about kind of some of these warning signs, because we're piecing together some stuff. And I just came into some not personal information, but some information who I can't really name my sources or anything like that about North Korea. And it's pretty much, from any aspect you look at it, it's pretty troubling. All signs point to the U.S. getting ready to do the whole, the quote unquote bloody nose strike, which is supposedly just a one-time hit, and they're going to like bomb a nuclear facility in North Korea and just hope that that's how it ends, because
good Lord.
So look, first there's been a shakeup in the Korean foreign policy front from the U.S. There was a guy that was supposed to become the ambassador, and he's considered hawkish by many measures, but apparently he wasn't hawkish enough to the Trump administration, and so he got the boot. He found out that he wasn't going to be the ambassador. He wrote an article today, I think today he wrote an article saying, hey, you guys need to start paying attention because it's about to get real with North Korea. I mean, we're getting really close to striking them. And, of course, these guys are going to sell it to us as like, oh, we're just going to do a one-time strike, and it's just, we're just going to take out the bad stuff, and that's it. But, of course, these things are way more complicated than that. North Korea is probably going to retaliate. The closest target is Japan. I don't think they would strike South Korea. Just maybe they would. The next closest target is Japan, which, of course, is a, strong U.S. ally. And I came into some information today from a friend who, let's just say, is connected to someone kind of high up in the Navy. We're not talking like way up there or anything, but just someone up in the Navy is basically hearing chatter that, hey, early this spring, some stuff might happen in North Korea, and so we're going to be out there, and some stuff, basically, like I'm saying, some airstrikes might happen, and they're going to have a bunch of naval presence out there in case, in case things pop off, and it could easily escalate into, Korean War 2.0, and let's bring in the third factor here is China. Now, China's made its stance pretty clear. If North Korea attacks anybody else without being provoked, then China is going to say, China will basically, at least according to them, they'll actually help deal with the North Korean thing, and they'll militarily help step in with a coalition and take out the Kim Jong-un regime. But China also said, hey, look, if somebody attacks North Korea preemptively, like, for instance, if the U.S. were to bomb them, China says that they're going to actually intervene on behalf of North Korea. So, this is a variable that could, change everything. So one little strike on North Korea from the U.S. in some kind of symbolic, like, tough guy, oh, I'm Trump and I bombed, some, their weapons facility or whatever, it could trigger a chain reaction that develops into something much, 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 much worse, much bigger than any of us want to be, dealing with. And so, there's that. And so that's something we're going to be covering a little more tomorrow on the Anti-Media. Keep an eye out for that article from James. Now, before we move on from North Korea, the last thing from the State of the Union speech that really stood out to me was how Trump kind of paraded this North Korean guy around. Did you watch it, Jake?
Yeah, I did. That part was insanely intense propaganda.
Like, it was brutally propagandistic, right? And it was just like, this guy, was tortured by North Korea, and all he was trying to do was become a Christian, and he was so, he was starving so bad that he fell asleep on a train track and he got ran over. Like, it was like really, strong, emotional appeal to this guy, right?
Yeah, that was intense, definitely.
And so then Trump goes on to say, and this is where the irony I guess whoever wrote this speech for Trump didn't realize how ironic it was. But Trump goes on to say how courageous this dude was, and he became basically a refugee, and he made it to America, right? And now he's like upheld as some kind of hero. It's like, wait, isn't Trump like anti-refugee? Isn't Trump anti-immigration? And I looked into it today, and sure enough, North Korea is a country where Trump wanted to ban refugees from coming from. So basically, this guy, he's walking around parading as a hero under his plan. If it were still being upheld, which it isn't, the guy would have been banned from coming in. And now Trump's parading him around like, this North Korean guy is this hero that escaped this horrible situation. The irony is just ridiculous there, and it's just like, what the fuck were these people thinking when they wrote the speech? And then all of a sudden, all the Trump people are like, oh my God, I can't believe this North Korean guy is so brave and he's such a hero. And it's like, yeah, he's also a refugee, and you guys supposedly don't like refugees, right? Yeah, but this is different because, it's just like, oh my God, it's so mind-numbing, the mental gymnastics that people go through to just keep supporting their political team of choice. And so that to me was just the stuff that stood out. And also, along those lines, also the MS-13 thing, and just how he used that to really push down on immigration and stuff, and kind of use it as a pitch to build the wall and all that. MS-13, I know they're active in Central America and stuff, but you really don't hear much about them doing anything in the U.S. There's maybe an isolated case extremely rarely or something, but it's like I don't ever see anything about MS-13. I live in a place where you would think you would actually, I live in the kind of place where I should probably know someone from MS-13, but
they're like the North Korea of gangs. They're really fucked up, but they keep themselves. They don't keep themselves, but they have a pretty strict policies about not killing non-gang members. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's fucked up, but they're their own internal fucked up situation. They're not really a huge danger to most of us at all.
Interesting. Yeah. See, I don't know enough about it. I never heard of them, so I've never even found a reason to go and research these guys. But it's the Trump and I think Jeff Sessions as well, have turned MS-13 into this kind of like talking point where they're using it for their anti-immigration propaganda, and it's like we can't allow immigrants in because what if they might be an MS-13 or whatever. And I know Trump used an example of some kids that snuck in that wound up hurting somebody.
Well, they need points of militarization. Every government, any regime does, and any strong American regime is going to have a strong militaristic enemy because that's part of the Orwellian dialectic. And Trump is just as much a part of that. And don't you think he's not going to do that just because he's perceived as, disrupting the system or something? He's still going to use domestic and international enemies to scare the shit out of us and use as an excuse to deploy troops anywhere he wants to use them.
Yeah, troops and surveillance. The other thing coming out now, ICE is starting to use or is tapping into the license plate reading databases so they can track people. In theory, to track immigrants, but you know how the government works. They give you one excuse and then they use it for another thing. So the immigration thing, I don't want to get too far into it. I know it's an emotionally charged topic, but militarizing the shit out of the border. Shit, dude. Jake, you've been here. You were here that time when that drone crashed out of the sky or whatever that thing was and fell in the street. And then a bunch of white SUVs showed up, roped the street off, and kind of collected some of the debris. We went down there and there was still some left and we grabbed some. It's so militarized right here where I'm at. It's like you can't be outside for more than 10 minutes without seeing a jet or an F-16 or a Black Hawk or one of those Osprey. Anyone seen those Osprey planes? Are they? They're not really planes. It's like a cross between a plane and a helicopter. Man, those things are like intimidating as hell. They fly them over here all the time. This place is militarized as shit, dude. And I go to Mexico quite often, and coming back across is the biggest pain in the ass, especially if you're driving a car. It's like the main reason I don't go to Mexico more often is because if I want to drive down there, coming back across, it's a 3-hour, 4-hour ordeal, like just sitting in like traffic to wait until they check your passport, check your trunk, look through your shit, ask you questions, see what you're bringing back. I mean, and if you're unlucky, they'll demand that they look through your phones and check your laptop or whatever you have with you. I mean, this stuff is happening now. In fact, a friend of my family, 16-year-old girl, was detained in the line, a U.S. citizen detained without giving any. They just detained her and her mom for suspicion of something.
Isn't that illegal? I mean, seriously.
Yeah, it's a gray area because it's technically they're still kind of, it's in between U.S. and Mexico. It's kind of like this autonomous area, and basically the customs in them have free reign to almost do what they want, because you don't really have the rights of a U.S. citizen because you're not on U.S. soil at that point. So they do what they want, and 16-year-old girl detained with her mom, very traumatic stuff, and life-changing stuff, dude. Like they don't even like going down there anymore because it was just so messed up, and they have family down there, and it's bad situation. And so that's what's going on with the immigration debate. And I ran back into that old Ron Paul video from the debate when everyone just shut up after he said it. Because Ron Paul in those 2012 presidential debates, he'd say some of the I don't want to call it crazy, but he would say some shit, and then everyone would just be like, okay. And there was that one time where he said, sure, you guys want to secure the border and all that, fine. We already have the stuff there to do it. He's like, but if you want to build a huge wall down there, he's like, there's as good a chance of that wall being used to keep people in as it is to keep people out. And at some point, when the economy gets fucked up, people are going to be trying to leave with their money, and that wall is going to be used to keep people in. And this was in the presidential debate, and everyone was just like quiet as hell. You could hear the crickets. It was hilarious. But that's all. Dude, I believe that, man. The wall is, the walls, at least in recent history, have been used to keep people in many cases, like the Berlin Wall, the curtain of steel. If in the next couple decades, as we see this transition away from the dollar-dominated world economy to maybe a Chinese-dominated world economy, and the U.S. has this issue where the dollar loses its reserve status, there could be that situation that Ron Paul was talking about where the people and their capital try to leave, and the wall actually is used to hold people in, to keep the taxpayers in, to keep paying for all the debts and keep paying for all the expenditures. And at that point in time, there's probably going to be huge government jobs programs and huge just build freeways for we need people in jobs, so just start building freeways, and they need people to pay for that kind of shit. And they're not saving up for that stuff right now. They're spending trillions and trillions of dollars. And in fact, I just read a report that Trump's going to ask for an extra $17 billion or something for the next military budget. They're not saving money up for hard times. Of spending it on a bunch of dumb shit right now, and shit that a lot of this military equipment that they're building, these high tech jets and a lot of the traditional type of military machinery and weapons. All that stuff's going to be irrelevant, dude. That stuff's going to be made irrelevant in the next 20 years. So we're spending trillions of dollars on it when we actually are. When the U.S. is actually going to try to go use that stuff in 20 years, when they're trying to fight for, the world economy, the economic wars and all that kind of stuff, all that equipment's going to be irrelevant by then.
Yeah, they're going to be fighting advanced artificial intelligence from Russia and China by that point. Exactly. They're totally. If they were at least using the extra military budget to militarize AI, which I'm not in support of because I want private people with good intentions creating AI and not the government. But damn well they're going to do it anyway, and China and Russia are doing it. So since there's going to be a military arms race to do it, why don't you just fucking do it and stop wasting money on these giant... They're just building redundancy. And this is not just me saying this or us saying this. People in the military are frustrated right now because people are not projecting into the future with the military. And it's just, Trump is an isolationist on everything. And he's really way more reactionary than people think. He's regressive on a lot of social issues, and he's regressive on reform in a number of different issues. And he's not a future thinking president. He's a fucking insane nationalist of the he's a Jacksonian nationalist, basically, which we never expected to become a president, but he is, and no one really knows how to deal with it because no one ever thought Andrew Jackson would become fucking president.
Yeah, dude, and part of it, and we touched on this a few shows back about how the U.S. kind of stopped having to compete. When we were competing militarily against the USSR, it kept us having a kind of innovative drive to it and really advancing futuristic weapons and stuff. Once the USSR fell, the US was just like, shit, we don't really have a big enemy anymore, so let's just keep building up, and we're going to build a bunch of weapons that, we may not need, but these military-industrial complex guys, they pay our bills, they fund our campaigns and all that stuff, and they obviously have a very deep root in the media. And so they built a bunch of shit like, for instance, MRAPs. Like, they built MRAPs to go into Iraq. MRAPs were largely ineffective in Iraq. And look what ended up happening to them. They said, all right, well, ship them back, give them to the police, let them use them on the streets of America now. And so they just build a bunch of clunky weapons, and like that jet. What's that jet that costs like trillions of dollars? Like, God, it's just ridiculous. F-22 Raptor, I think they call it. I mean, trillions and trillions of dollars they sunk into this thing. It's hardly even operational. And again, by the time we're ready to use it, it's going to be outdated. So the U.S. kind of just grew complacent and said, well, just keep throwing money at stuff. And these guys keep building these pet projects that aren't even applicable. And that's what you got. You got a very wasteful, inefficient, huge bureaucratic military-industrial complex in the United States. And in China and elsewhere, you got this really lean, agile force that relies more on digital and AI and cyber warfare, which is the future. I mean, that you got a bunch of drones out flying around, and you send a cyber attack, take them all down at once. I mean, this is the future of warfare. So we've lost our competitive edge, and now they spent so much money that there's no way that we're ever going to pay it back, and now we're just all kind of saddled with all that debt.
Yeah, in the future, it's not going to matter how many rockets or missiles you have. It's going to matter if you have one device that can hack, intercept, and redirect those missiles to hit their host. That's what's going to matter.
Yep, and that equipment's going to cost a lot less than the missiles themselves. So, all right, let's move on from foreign policy. I want to go back and talk about some of the shit we're dealing with at the anti-media. Of course, about a few hours before the show, we published an article titled "Trump Hopes a Traumatic Major Event Isn't Needed to Unite America." Very weird stuff Trump was talking about yesterday ahead of the State of the Union address, where basically he was saying, this country's all divided and stuff, and unfortunately the only thing that brings it together is large-scale, traumatic events, basically like 9/11 more or less, or like hurricanes and fires, catastrophes and that kind of stuff. Anyway, we published the article. I mean, it's just kind of just throwing out the quotes and just speculating on what kind of stuff he's talking about, 9/11 type stuff. And of course, Facebook wouldn't let us post it. It was just, there's an error, and and then it finally did post, and literally only one person out of our 2 million followers saw it. And so I deleted it, and I tried to post it again, and it said, it cannot post. And then I try to post it again, so it cannot post. And then I go back, and it posted twice. And it's like, what the fuck is going on? So anyway, we've been talking on the show about some of the struggles we've been dealing with. And it's not just us, but, of course, we're going to talk about our issues. Because, I feel that the anti-media is one of the better independent media outlets out there that hasn't gone down hasn't sold out to the crowd mentality and just got on the Trump train or just went crazy conspiracy, everything's a conspiracy thing. So, and having built this company from the ground up, it's like I got a huge vested interest in keeping it going. And with Facebook, announcing all these changes to the newsfeed, very drastic changes. Normally, Facebook will tinker with the algorithm every 6 months or something, and it'll just change a little slight, measure of data. And so then you just got to adjust the way you present your content to adjust to, Facebook algorithm. And that's what we've been doing for the last 3-4 years. When we first started the anti-media, it was kind of a wild west, and that's how we blew up so quick. Our shit would go viral as hell. And then, Facebook started reeling it in slowly over the years and just tinkering with the algorithm. But the most recent stuff has been just drastic changes. And now, of course, there's a bunch of different factors going into this. Number one, Facebook is just trying to extract as much revenue out of its platform as it can, and so for that it does what it does from a business standpoint, which is at least somewhat understandable. They want to make money, okay, they want to make money, fine. The other thing is that they caught a lot of heat after the election, when Trump won, for all this fake news stuff, and everyone was like, oh, well, Facebook needs to do more to control the flow of information. So basically, there was a chorus of media outlets calling for the censorship of media. And when you think about the war on free speech, you normally think about it coming from government. It's oh, the government's trying to censor people, and the government's trying to silence activists, and the government's trying to silence the opposition. What I found very interesting after the election is that much of the calling for censorship was actually coming from it started off from the big hit came from the Washington Post when they started talking about how everybody that goes against the military-industrial complex works for Russia, including us. They accused us of working for Russia, either directly or indirectly as just a useful idiot, they called it. So they said I was a useful idiot for Vladimir Putin because we challenged the blatant empire that exists in the United States and around the world that we spread all around the world. For that, we work for Russia apparently, and so it was really surprising to me that this call for censorship and controlling of the newsfeed and just filtering out anyone who they deemed unworthy of getting viewership, the fact that it came from mainstream media outlets was just pretty surprising. But then later on, I'm like, well, it kind of makes sense. They're trying to regulate the competition, and that's a pretty common thing in the business world. You get your lobby and you get your politicians and you have them regulate your competition, and then it gives you a more competitive edge. And so then it made sense to me. It's okay, the mainstream media is trying to get Facebook to control the flow of media because they've lost control of the narrative and they've lost control of their profits and the people who pay them to spread influence, which is more or less, that's what it is. Look, I've been working in this industry for 5 years now. The media business isn't very profitable. It's not. I live a relatively modest life. All of our workers live a relatively modest life. It's not we're out getting rich off of Facebook likes and people reading our articles. You make a living, but it's a modest one, right? So it makes you ask the question, well, why does a guy like Jeff Bezos, now the richest man in the world, why does he buy the Washington Post? And what is the motivation there? Because Bezos obviously is a guy that likes making money. He bought the Washington Post as a company that was actually losing money. And when you start asking those types of questions, you start realizing, okay, well, these guys aren't actually buying media companies to be profitable. They're buying influence, and they're trying to spread influence. And that's kind of and I think that's what a lot of this fake news nonsense has to do with, is these guys, it's not that they were losing clicks to the independent media per se, they were losing influence to the independent media. And of course, yeah, dude, there's a bunch of fucking bullshit websites out there like Your Newswire and Neon Metal and all them that spread a bunch of stupid shit all the time. And yeah, I wish people were smart enough to fact check that stuff and not just click share the headlines or whatever, because it confirms their biases and all that. But that isn't the role of other media companies. Shouldn't be asking Facebook to regulate other media companies. I mean, it's a huge conflict of interest. And so I think part of Facebook's recent rollback of news posts or page posts in the news feed was just because they're tired of getting criticized. They're tired of every time something happens, like, oh, Facebook didn't do enough. And so, I mean, I get it. I kind of get what they're, doing. It's like, okay, Facebook, like, all right, you guys all want to talk shit? Fuck you then. We're just taking it out. We're taking it all out of the news feed. Fine. Okay. And then now an even more pressing point, headline from today. Facebook says its users are spending 50 million fewer hours a day on the platform, and it just recorded its first year-over-year decline in U.S. Users. So basically, Facebook is now shrinking in the United States. So this is the other reason for what they're doing with tinkering with the algorithm, is they're trying to recapture the audience. They're trying to say, shit, well, why are people getting put off by Facebook? Why are people not wanting to spend so much time? Why isn't it growing anymore? Why is it shrinking? Well, I'll tell you my honest opinion on why Facebook is now kind of a place. Like, I go on Facebook every single day, and it's just like, fuck, why am I seeing the same 5 posts over and over? And why does it just seem so stale and stagnant? I'll tell you why. My opinion is that Facebook tried to overdo the algorithm with the newsfeed, and they want to. It's even if you read the latest release on what they're attempting with the newsfeed, it says right there, we're going to serve posts that we predict you want to see. So what Facebook has done is it's gone way over the deep end with trying to figure out what people actually want to see, and aren't letting people just see what they see. And that was, to me, that's like the beauty of the internet. Seeing stuff that you're not necessarily searching for. It's like you find some like random thing on Facebook, and it's like, oh, cool, I get to learn something new today. And now it's just like, here's your echo chamber, here's what we predict you want to see, we're going to keep showing you all the shit you want to see. That's fucking boring. Like, it's boring. Facebook is boring as shit now. It is. And so that's my opinion on where they went wrong, is when they start just trying to overthink the newsfeed instead of just letting it be the Wild West. Let people post, let the post show up, let the fake news be fake news, let the real news be real news, and let, like they say, let the gods sort it out,
Facebook tried to become the government of the internet.
Yeah, dude. Like they tried to be the NSA of the internet, basically, and they overdid it. And now it's like not a human newsfeed anymore. It's like this robotic, algorithmic, AI serving up what they think you want to see. And what it turns out, it's not really what people want to see. What people wanted to see was the Wild West. They want to see whatever shows up, not what they think you want to see. So that's where I think Facebook really fucked up. If they were smart, they would just set everything back to what they had back in. I know when I got started in this stuff, 2012, 2013, it was awesome. It was awesome. It was a fun platform.
Yep.
If they wanted to recapture the audience, just undo what they've done for the past 4.5, 5 years. Just undo it all and go back. But they're not going to do that. I mean, they're not going to do that. A lot of things have changed since then. They become a public company. They have to extract profit. They have a lot of things to do. Now, the interesting statistic out of this story that I'm talking about here, despite the fact that Facebook is shrinking in the United States, despite the fact that people are spending less time on Facebook, guess what? Their revenue is up pretty well too. So they are making a lot of fucking money. They're making a lot of money. But when they start having users flocking away from it, they're going to be in trouble. Anyway, back to the topic here is how we're dealing with this. Because our entire business plan, the anti-media was born on Facebook. Back when it was the Wild West, we started this fucking organization with one meme that I made on Microsoft Paint. It was like, I look back at it now and I'm like halfway embarrassed and halfway like amazed by that fact that meme went viral and started this whole thing off. But back then it was possible. Now it's not. So we started this off with our whole business model built around Facebook, built on top of it, because it was such a great platform at the time, and it worked out. Like, we built this thing up into, at one time, we were like in the top 7,000 websites in the country. You know, it's kind of dwindled a bit from there. And I remember one time there was a 1 week where we reached 150 million people on Facebook through the Anti-Media Facebook page alone. 150 million people in 1 week. I mean, it was like, just, we had a couple of like super viral memes that just went crazy. Those times are gone. Like, they're gone. And so we're now having to adapt. Like I said, over the years, Facebook would tinker with the algorithm every few months, every 6 months. But with these new sweeping changes, it literally has forced us to rethink our whole business model. And I talked about this a bit in the past several shows. It's finally live. We've launched the Anti-Media Patreon page. So if anybody out there listening wants to support us on Patreon, we would love to have you as a supporter. We've set up a couple of tiers of support. If you go to patreon.com/theantimedia, you can go over there and sign up. And we got a couple of different tiers. I'm just going to quickly go over this stuff because I don't want to bore everybody. $1 makes you an anti-mediaite, and basically just kind of gets you into we're going to create a Slack channel, and we're going to be a little more intimate with our communications with our supporters, and you guys can help us find stories worth covering, help us, fact check and all that good stuff. Frontline supporters for $5 basically are going to be a little bit more like hands-on, and we're going to do monthly video conferences, and you guys can talk to us, and yeah, I mean, we're I'm sure everybody wants to talk to us, but I'm sure some people do.
We'll give you back rubs.
Yeah, dude, we'll give you digital back rubs and none of that creepy shit like Weinstein, because we don't do that kind of shit around here.
Yeah, anti-media will be the next big Me Too scandal. Yes.
No. $10 makes you a researcher. Basically, our researchers are going to help us pick out stories, help us fact-checking, and then we're going to give like a monthly little workshop where we're going to go over just a bunch of this stuff. We've been doing this for 5 years, and we've learned a bunch of shit about the industry, about the media, about how it works, how to fact-check, how to research. So we'll give like a monthly conference about that, and we'll have cool people like Derek Bros and Carrie Wedler come in and give their tips. And Carrie even talked about wanting to do like meditation, because when you're an activist, when you're a person who is very conscious of all this horrible shit going on in the world, all the wars, all the poverty, all the famine, all the war crimes, and all the other shit going on, that gets to you. Like, it'll get to you. And I know Carrie, she meditates every single morning before she starts work, because it just helps her, get at ease with what's going on and just, really deal with it. And she even talked about doing some yoga instructing and stuff for our $10 a month supporters. So that should be interesting. And then it kind of just scales up from there. And the more you're able to chip in, the little more intimate it gets with, dealing with us and your role. And then we'll give shout outs to all the people who support us, and we'll add you to our website if you support us with $20 or more as like an honorary partner or whatever. I honestly hate like talking about this stuff because I don't like it. It's like kind of an uncomfortable topic. Like, I don't like asking for donations, to be honest. And we never did before because we never had to. But this isn't really a donation. I mean, this is you supporting us for providing a service that you find value in, and we provide stories that most news outlets aren't covering, mainly on foreign policy. And of course, Jake's been doing some fucking awesome coverage on futuristic stuff, AI. These are the topics that are going to be engulfing the world in the coming years, and so it's nice that we're getting a head start on covering this stuff so that you guys listening kind of know it's coming, so you could adjust your lifestyle to it, and maybe come out better off on the other side. Really, that's a lot of what I enjoy about this radio show, is that we can talk about stuff that's incoming. We're not like Jon Stewart where it was like, Obama signed the Monsanto Protection Act yesterday, and here's how awful it is. It'd have been nice if you talked about it a few weeks ahead of time so that we'd know. And, that's kind of what I like doing, is kind of looking forward and seeing what might be on the horizon so people can expect it, people can prepare for it. And that means that people who give a shit will be better off knowing this information and being able to adjust to it. And you'll be the leaders of the leaders of the future, the leaders of the next generation and stuff like that. I mean, hopefully some of you guys will be. That's what I like about the show. And then, of course, people find various different reasons to support us on our website. Even if it's for the memes, we got some fucking awesome memes. So, yeah, if you could support us on Patreon. Oh, yeah, and let me shout out the people who have already pledged their support to us, because we've already got 8 people that are already supporting us. And we just launched it yesterday, so that's already pretty good. Bernadette Cassidy, Diane Pike, Jennifer Depew, Amy H, Sandra Eden, who I actually know, she's a friend of mine here in San Diego, Anthony Rice, Danny F. Quest, News to Share, which is Ford Fisher. I want to have him on the radio show sometime pretty soon. Really interesting guy. He's doing a lot of he's actually making a documentary right now about transhumanism, which, Jake, I know you're interested in as well. So I think it'd be cool to invite him on the show, and I know he'd be down to be on the show. So everybody that's supporting us, thank you very much. And Jake's mom is, according to Jake, is going to support us as well, right?
Yeah. I think they're getting in at the $50 level. So I suppose
that's awesome, dude. That's huge. That's huge, dude. That's huge.
Yeah. I suppose that means you'll be flying them out for like lobster dinners and stuff.
Oh yeah. For sure. Every 6 months. Oh yeah, so
Nick, you've always been reluctant to fundraise. I mean, I even tried to get you to do a Kickstarter for a anti-media documentary, and you didn't want to because you genuinely don't like fundraising. This is kind of like dire straits, like the big epic moment where we need the true anti-media audience to stand up and help us. And this is like a moment, a test in survival, but also, it's like an intersection in how the company can grow. So this is, if you're listening, you're, an avid anti-media fan, we need you. Obi-Wan.
Yeah, dude. And look, let me get a little more brutally honest here. As much of a pain in the ass it is that Facebook went and fucking changed everything up on us, if we're able to come out of this thing on the other side, we're going to be better off. We really are, because we're going to be much more independent, and we're not going to have to be chasing fucking Facebook clicks, which is the most annoying thing in the fucking world. Look, and I know you guys have seen it. I know our listeners have seen the occasional stupid article we put out that we put it out there to get fucking clicks on Facebook. I'm not gonna bullshit anybody, because that's how, according to these algorithms, that's how we have to pay our bills. I don't like chasing after those clicks. I want to cover nothing but the hardest hitting fucking shit that makes people uncomfortable. Not our readers, but like it makes corporations and governments and warmongers uncomfortable, and I want to put out the most in-depth investigations, and I want to put out the most awesome solutions and the most interesting shit. But in our current model with Facebook, we do have to chase clicks at times, and unfortunately that's just how you pay the bills, and that's one of the pitfalls of relying on Facebook clicks. If we get this direct support from people on Patreon, we don't have to chase those clicks anymore. We can spend the resources investigating stuff. And it's heartbreaking sometimes, dude, when, sometimes a writer will give us an article that's like, 5,000 words, and it's like they put days and days into it, and we're like, oh, wow, this is a great article. We post it on Facebook, and it gets like, 70 clicks or 50 clicks or even less. And it's like...
Yep. I've been there.
Yeah, dude. I mean, we've all seen it, and I personally have spent so much time on articles only to see them flop. that it really can get to you at times, especially if you go sometime, if you get a cold streak and you go 10 articles in a row and it's they just flop on Facebook. I mean, not that they're bad articles, but it's just the algorithm.
Conversely, when you have a good one that really reaches people and gets out there, man, it's a really great feeling knowing you're reaching that many people,
Exactly, dude, exactly. It makes it all worth it, right?
Absolutely.
So, look, if you can support us on Patreon, please do. If you can't, I totally understand. Please don't feel obligated. Don't feel guilty about it. Everybody doesn't have to support us. We got 2 million followers. I'm sure we're going to get enough people to support us. It'd be great if you could, but it's not mandatory.
Maybe if people can't donate financially, maybe just sign up on Steemit and just follow our page when we're on there.
Yeah. I'm going to get into that right now.
Sorry.
Oh, no worries, dude. That's actually the very next step. So we posted an article today, a little dire, just kind of calling to action some of our fundraising stuff, some of our next step, how we're adjusting our business plan, to this Facebook change. Patreon, the first thing. Steemit is number 2. Now, I got some good news on Steemit. Given the fact that we are a big media company and we have a big audience, and I've been able to form a coalition with several other publishers, and I was able to approach Steemit, the people that run the company or the organization. I was able to approach them. I had a call with them today. They are very excited about us moving over there. They've offered to assist us in several different ways. And so it looks pretty promising that we're going to find us a nice base of support over on Steemit. So today after I got off the phone with them, I felt really good. Felt like a huge weight off my shoulder. I think Steemit is really going to help us fill in the gaps in revenue to keep most of our staff on board and not have to do any cutbacks and all that good stuff. Follow us on Steemit, steemit.com/ at the little A email sign, anti-media. And we're going to be posting our introduction post tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. Upvote it, re-steam it, do all that good stuff, share it, whatever. You can post it on.
So we're officially on Steemit now?
We're officially on Steemit. We're posting our
introduction.
Our introduction article is coming out tomorrow. We already have our account set up. And like I said, I talked to some of the guys that run it, and they're super happy about us going over there. They look forward to helping us, be successful. So, really great news on that front. The other thing that you can do to help get around the whole Facebook algorithm stuff is we have a newsletter going that we're really starting to customize and get it fit for each user. I know some people don't want to have an email in their inbox every single day from us. You can set it to come in every week. You can set it to come in just once a month, or you can set it to come every day. If you want it every day, you can get it every day. So there's that. You can go sign up on the newsletter. You can sign up for the newsletter at theantimedia.org. Just scroll down to the bottom of the page, enter your email, and that's pretty much it. And of course, just visiting the website directly. I know probably the listeners listening tonight probably already do that. And then donating shares. This is the easiest thing to do. Come to our website, see an article you like, share it on Facebook, share it on Twitter, put it on Reddit, wherever you find your home on social media. Just throw it out there for us, and that helps a lot. Because we still have ads on the site. We still make money from the traffic. And so just, if you can't afford to donate, if you can't afford to pitch in on Patreon or whatever, that's fine. If you can just donate some shares, that works too. And all this stuff together, Patreon, Steemit, we're still going to be posting stuff on Facebook. We have a big following on Minds.com. We got Twitter, Instagram, and all that stuff. Dude, we're going to be okay. I think we're going to be okay. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep fighting this fight. Thank you all for supporting us all this time. It's been a lot of years, and we'll be back Monday. Peace out. But call it a reality, 'cause there's no illusion.
This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.